If you didn't know any better, and grossly assumed that the Kemetic people were a godless and idolatrous nation, then if you read the Kemetic lore, you could easily see Ra and all the characters in it as participators in an elaborate fictional story of gods and goddesses. However, if you believe that the Kemetic people were a monolatrous and God-fearing nation with similar cultural beliefs as other traditional Africans, then you would see that Ra and all the characters symbolize various attributes of God whose image we, men and women, were all created from. Therefore, from an ancient African perspective, to understand who and what is Ra, when we look at one of the oldest Kemetic stories, the legend of Ra and Aset, or Isis, there is a passage where Aset asks Ra to reveal his true name. In the story, Ra states that I am Khepera in the morning, Ra at noon, and Temu at evening. If the story is interpreted literally, it would mean that Ra has multiple personalities. However, if the story is interpreted from an ancient African perspective, by comparing it with other similar traditional African concepts, the Ra speaking in the story is the life force, which is called in Taoism chi energy. In other words, Ra is the personification of the life force energy, like El is the personification of the life force in Hebrew. This explains why in Kemetic speech, Ra is used as a prefix and suffix to illustrate that Ra is an attribute of God's divine life force, just like El is used as a prefix and suffix to illustrate that El is an attribute of God's divine life force in the Hebrew tradition. This means that if Ra is the life force, then Khepera is not the sun god of dawn, but represents the life force of all things new, including sunrise, infancy, the eastern direction, birth, etc. If the Ra is the life force, then Ra at noon represents the life force that sustains all life, symbolized as the midday sun. This means Temu, Atamara, or Ra-Tum represents the life force of all things old that must die, undergo a change, or transform, symbolized as the setting sun in the west. Once it is clear that Ra is not the sun god and that these are all attributes of the life force, it is safe to say that the most popular form of the life force, Amun-Ra, represents the life force in a state of renewal or rebirth, symbolized as the midnight moon. In other words, Amun-Ra is the secret or the hidden name of Ra. When all these forms of Ra are put together based upon their correlation with the sun, they form a cross like the dikenga de Kongo or Kongo Cross, thus revealing that Ra is not the sun god as archaeologists claim, but a divine principle of nature or God, that awards the righteous with everlasting life. This means that anyone who still believes that Ra is the sun god is following a script meant to separate Kemet from the rest of traditional Africa, as well as demonize African spirituality in an effort to promote their own religious agenda. In other words, only worshippers, people looking for God outside of themselves, believe that the Kemetic people worship the sun.